said in the off season, that makes me believe that those teams will have an even bigger advantage, at least to start for the first month or so of the season. And right now we only have till March released. They haven't announced when they're going to release the rest of the schedule, which goes, March to May. And so 72 games, how drastic of a difference is that from 82? I don't know. I think just the way the world is now, with everybody kind of adjusting their lifestyles the way we have, everybody's kind of been flipped over and, a half dozen times this year. And we're just trying to kind of get our bearings. I think that's kind of the way for basketball teams too. They're going to be adjusting. There's going to be COVID positives. There's going to be delays. There's going to be cancellations, postponements. I mean, it's only, realistic to expect that, right? That this is going to be a tumultuous season one way or another, just based on the world we're living in. They're not in a bubble anymore. And the bubble was amazing. I mean, it was absolutely, and I think in history books, they'll talk about the NBA bubble. Not that there'll be history books in the future because, they'll all be digital, but you know what I'm talking about. Maybe not hardbound books, but when people are Googling, when they're Googling 2020, 100 years from now, they're going to talk about Adam Silver, the NBA, and how they arranged this end of the season bubble, and they didn't have a single positive test in a land where the virus was surging in a lot of parts of our country. So I think that it still is a part of the story. The shortened season, the less games, the turnaround, all that stuff is part of it. But in the end, lights go on, ball gets tossed up. We're playing basketball. Best basketball team's going to win it all. And the best teams are going to advance to the playoffs. And how exciting is it here in the Valley that we got one of them? I feel that way. I feel the optimism, the positivity. That's the side of the street I like to live on. So I'm going to stay over there, even with all the darkness and everything around the world. Basketball's almost here, and I want to focus on that. And hopefully folks on Planet Orange can join me. And when it's all said and done, maybe in June, wouldn't that be nice? We're going to have a lot of fun.
I agree, Bloomer. It's going to come down to what team adapts the most to all the crazy situations, because like you said, they're going to be COVID tests, that they're going to be guys that are testing positive for COVID, and the scheduling is going to be crazy. We already see how crazy the Suns schedule is going to be. This weekend, they've got 2 games back-to-back in Sacramento. Late January, they've got 2 games against Denver at home, back-to-back games. Later that month, they've got 2 games in Dallas. So things are going to be crazy as far as travel and how are they going to work out their rosters, and what team is going to step up and fight through everything that's going to be thrown at them throughout the course of 72 games, and who's going to be the best team to come out as world champions. That's pretty much you and I see eye to eye on that one, Bloomer.
You know what else, and I think it's going to help a little bit in this way. You're not going to play Denver on Wednesday and have to fly to Philadelphia and play the Sixers on Thursday and then fly down to Miami and play them on Sunday. You're not going to do that. So I think as much as a lot of things are a disadvantage, I think it's good to play a team back-to-back games because, one, health-wise, you're not flying all over the place. And 2, in the NBA, it's hard to beat a good team back-to-back. And it's a lot easier to beat a bad team back-to-back. So there are going to be some pluses and minuses in there one way or the other. But I think all everyone can do is hope for health this season and let everything else fall. Good teams will be fine. No one's worried about the Lakers. No one's worried about the Clippers. No one's worried about Milwaukee. Good teams that have played long into the bubble have their cohesiveness. And when you add a guy to a Giannis or a LeBron or a Kawhi, you're not really worried about how they're going to react because the other guy's going to have to play up to their talents. They're not going to play down. The teams that you worry about are the teams like Detroit, Chicago, New York, new faces, losing a lot. How are they going to mesh together? I think that's where you'll see some of the differences. But the good teams, there won't be much change in the playoff structures because they have superstars, and superstars carry you through.
Well, I'm excited to see and curious at the same time how this is going to evolve as the season goes on. So much at stake, so much that's fluid. We'll find out here in the next day and a half or so, maybe less. So in the next few hours, so it'll kick off and see how it progresses. Thank you, John. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you have a busy day and a lot of things to do. You're a busy man. I want to thank you for joining us and being a part of the show today.
Well, thanks so much for having me, guys. Look forward to doing it again during the season. And go Suns.
Works up, Bloomer. You're one of us now.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Take it easy, guys.
All right, see you later.
Thanks,
buddy.
bro. Thanks, Bloomer.
You. So I have to move on to MLB a little bit. And I cannot not ask this, especially of PLR and our previous conversations in our previous shows. We know there's been a lot of controversy with the names of the teams. We have Washington football team, they're on the progress of making a name change. And we have MLB now with the Cleveland Indians. They will be dropping their name. They will, however, have their name in the uniforms throughout the 2021 season. But that's just one of the first teams now in MLB who will be changing. Is the Atlanta Braves going to be following suit of that? And then, I know we've brought it up in the past, with Blackhawks in the NHL. Now, maybe, who knows, with the Warriors. So I want to, lead it off with PLR. I know you won't shy away from it. Give me your thoughts. I know for me, it's not a surprise for Cleveland Indians coming about and finally deciding, hey, we're going to do a name change. And there's been protests about it over the years. That's finally happening. But lay it out there, PLR.
Okay, so I think let's go back to the original, the Washington football team. They dropped the Redskins because, flat out, that's derogatory. I mean, there's no way to get around it. And people for years are saying, hey, that'd be like you calling someone from Italy or Poland using the derogatory term towards that name. And so with Cleveland, I think they're getting the same blowback. So before I dive all the way to Cleveland, I think teams like the Seminoles, the Warriors, the Chiefs, the Blackhawks, the buy-in has been different. So I don't think there's been the same backlash from the Native American tribes. So we'll save them for later. But with Cleveland, if they feel, if the billionaire that owns the team feels that it's bad for business to keep up a name that a lot of people have told him this is a derogatory name, and he makes that move, I am hard-pressed to understand why guys are walking around saying, oh, they're killing tradition. You cannot, and you do not, and I'll speak to a lot of the people I've seen on Twitter, old white dude, and old white dude isn't a necessary term for white people. It's anyone that's been old white dude, like old get off my lawn. It's not your choice to tell someone tradition supersedes racism. It's not your job. So you could say, well, I'm never going to buy another Cleveland hat. Well, don't buy it. Because how would you feel when Bomani Jones popped up on TV with the T-shirt that said, the Washington Caucasians? Everyone was up in uproar. Well, but that offends you. But Indians is tradition. How would you like it if someone put that Italian derogatory name on their shirts and said, but wait a second, we want to start a new tradition? Italian Americans would be in uproar. So you don't have that right to tell someone your tradition supersedes their feeling of being looked at in a racial way. And so I have no issue with Cleveland. Look, if that's what Cleveland feels is the right thing to do, that's what they need to do. If you're a true fan, if you like Cleveland, you like Cleveland. Sometimes you speak volumes about yourself when you take up arms and you cape up for something like that. I'm a diehard Chicago Blackhawks fan. I love everything in Chicago except the Cubs. If they came out and said, you know what, we're getting too much blowback, we're going to have to go to another name, then go to another name. I went to high school. I was a Lane Tech Indian forever. They changed the name because they got so much blowback that it was derogatory. I wasn't one of those people saying, oh, well, I went to school there years ago, and that's tradition that we're no. It was deemed by too many people as being racist. So you know what? It doesn't lessen the fact that I went to school there. It doesn't change the fact that I was proud when I went there. I'm a proud alum of Lane Tech High School. I'm not a proud alum just because I was known as an Indian. Well, no, times pass. And I'll take it like this. If someone back in the 50s or the 60s, they walked up to black people and called us all kinds of names. If you were real deep in the South, and I'm not going to say anything that you got to edit out, Ed, I'll be on my best behavior today. If you were real deep in the South, they would say nigra, the nigress. Well, that's offensive as hell. And if you notice, as time goes on, every race of people have a right to tell you how they want to be identified. And if you push back on that, you're speaking volumes about you, not about them. If you go out right now and you saw a water fountain that said for colored people, you'd get into a fight. That's not a term that we gave ourselves. And before all the idiots go, well, it's still called NAACP. Because there are idiots that say that, you're speaking volumes about yourself, not about what's happening. And if people are saying that name is wrong, change the name. In fact, you know what you do, Ed and Joe? You increase your marketing. Billionaires aren't going to do something that's not going to increase their marketing. You know how many Washington football team, those mini helmets sold this year with the numbers on it? A gazillion of them. You know what they did with the old ones? They popped them in stores and they sold out. You know where that revenue went? Back to the NFL.
Back to the owner?
Back to the owner. So you know what's going to happen with those Cleveland Indian jerseys and caps and all that stuff? They're going to sell it and the owner's going to get rich off that and rich off the new stuff. Listen, that's life. It moves on. It moves on. So, like I said, think about who you cape up for before you do, because it speaks more about you than anybody else. Cleveland, if that's what you do, that's what you do.
I agree, Joe and Paul. It's that simple. If you do the proper research, if you meet with the proper people, like Paul Dolan, the owner of the Cleveland Indians, said he met with Native Americans and he met with civic leaders and everybody that's been an influence toward the Cleveland Indians, and they all say that the name is derogatory. You need to change the name. It's something he has to do as a business move. Clearly, like Paul said, at the end of the day, it is a business. You are there to make money. You're a baseball team. You're out there to win a championship. Bring your city a championship. Your fans a championship. If your fans and your community aren't happy with the way you're running your organization, a la the name, then you change it. Just like the Washington football team, they changed it from Redskins to Washington football team. We'll see what happens. Maybe the Seminoles may do something. The Atlanta Braves may do something. That's down the road. But we're talking Cleveland Indians. And Paul said the Washington football team. Just imagine how much money Daniel Snyder has made off of all this new merchandise that they've sold with the name change. Just like I'm sure Paul Dolan's thinking, okay, whatever we change our name to, just think how much more money I'm going to make, the organization is going to make, and how much of a difference and impact that we're going to make with a different look, a whole new different feel, a different vibe that the organization has with a new name, new franchise feel, a new look when it comes to our uniforms and our hats and our T-shirts and whatever memorabilia and merchandise that we sell. It is a business at the end of the day, but you have to cater to your audience. You have to cater to the people that pay your salaries, that come to your games and that watch your games on TV. Because of COVID, obviously, there was a limited amount of fans that could come this year. Well, we don't know what's going to happen next year, but the people that support you and live and die Cleveland Indians baseball or Washington football team football, you have to cater to them because they are the ones that pay your salaries and they are the ones that support you, whether you win or lose, no matter what, rain, sleet, snow, or shine, they're with you.
And remember, Ed, they got rid of the Chief Wahoo. What was that, about 10 years ago now? And when they first got rid of Cleveland, when they first got rid of Chief Wahoo, everyone was like, oh, my goodness, I'm never watching Cleveland again. Well, guess what? Cleveland won some division titles and went to the playoffs. And last I checked, the stands were packed and the fans were there.
And they went to the World Series.
And they went to World Series. Fans, you cannot get caught up by their unnecessary nonsense off the beginning. And I will tell you something else. Daniel Snyder in Washington fought that name forever.
He did.
Until he realized he was in trouble, first off, personally,